Alaska, a land within one of the world's richest nations, a place that pours billions into tourism, defense, and entertainment. Yet, on its frozen streets, people fight simply to stay alive. Here, the same majestic landscapes that draw millions of visitors each year turn lethal for those without shelter. Nearly 2,940 people in this vast state are without homes, a number that might sound small until you realize that over 50 lives were lost this year alone to cold, hunger, or sheer neglect. These are not mere statistics. They are silent warnings buried beneath layers of snow and silence. This is not a documentary about a faraway crisis. It's the reality of homeless in America unfolding in the so-called land of ice and freedom. Behind every snow-covered street lies a story of resilience, of loss of survival against impossible odds. So what's truly happening in this frozen frontier? Let's uncover the human truth behind Alaska's deepening homelessness emergency, the brutal winters, the rising numbers, and the quiet struggle of those left behind. Alaska's homelessness surged, thousands trapped in the cold. Alaska's homelessness crisis is a wound that deepens with each passing year, far larger and more complex than the official numbers reveal. According to HUD's 2024 Annual Homelessness Assessment Report, Alaska counted 2,686 people without homes in the January point-in-time survey, a 2.8% increase from the previous year. In Anchorage, the epicenter of the crisis, the numbers are even more staggering. 2,940 individuals were recorded in July 2024, per the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness. The most heartbreaking trend, families with children. Across the nation, nearly 150,000 children experience homelessness on any given night, a 33% jump from 2023. In Alaska, this rise is most visible in Anchorage, where shelters overflow with parents clutching kids through sub-zero nights. Even more shocking, the number of people living unsheltered in cars' tents or beneath bridges has exploded by 256% from 97 in 2019 to 346 in 2024. These makeshift encampments now sprawl across public land hidden behind trees or snowbanks, invisible to most. But these figures only scratch the surface. The pit count captures one night missing countless others sleeping in cars, remote cabins, or on friends' couches. In a state as vast and isolated as Alaska, the real number of unhoused residents could easily be double or even triple the official count. The consequences are deadly. In 2024 alone, 50 people died on Anchorage's streets, matching 2023's record victims of exposure, untreated illness, or simple abandonment.
One day I stand outside for an hour and a half and just waiting and waiting for somebody to come out so I could go in. Cold, really cold.
Winters here can plunge below 14 degrees C, and while 80% of the homeless population seeks temporary refuge in shelters, those shelters are chronically overcrowded. Each night, hundreds are turned away. Anchorage, Alaska's service hub, draws people from remote villages seeking healthcare safety or jobs only to find rents averaging $1,500 a month and a housing market out of reach. The crisis has begun to spread, seeping into Fairbanks, Juneau, and Nome, leaving no region untouched. In March 2025, the Anchorage Coalition reported over 1,000 households, roughly 2,500 to 3,000 people, on the verge of eviction, with 375 already unhoused. Even families earning $80,000 a year now live paycheck to paycheck, one accident or medical bill away from losing everything. Without decisive action, experts warn of a 15 to 20% surge in homelessness by 2030, fueled by a shortfall of 10,000 affordable homes and rents climbing 6 to 8% annually. Still, there's a glimmer of hope. The Housing First model, which helped cut veteran homelessness by 50% between 2011 and 2022, could offer Alaska a path forward. If scaled, it might reduce homelessness by 10-15% in 5 years. But that's only possible if policymakers act, because in the unforgiving cold of Alaska, in the heart of homeless in America, every delay costs lives. The hidden dangers who's most vulnerable. Homelessness in Alaska doesn't discriminate, yet it hits some communities with crushing precision, revealing the deeper inequities embedded in the American system. At the forefront are Alaska Natives, who make up 44.1% of the state's homeless population, despite representing just 15.2% of its residents. Generations of displacement, land loss, and systemic neglect have left Native communities grappling with poverty-limited healthcare and few job opportunities. Many migrate to Anchorage seeking stability only to face impossible rents and scarce support. The weight of historical trauma, addiction, and untreated mental illness compounds the cycle. Next are those with disabilities and chronic illnesses, accounting for 45.1% of Alaska's homeless and 49% of the chronically unhoused nationwide. For people managing conditions like diabetes or schizophrenia, survival is an uphill battle. Hospital visits among the homeless are 3 to 6 times higher than average, yet access to preventive care remains almost non-existent. In the winter months, untreated illnesses often turn fatal, as the 50 deaths in Anchorage in 2024 grimly remind us. The elderly face a growing crisis of their own. Across the U.S., half of all single homeless adults are now over 50, a trend reflected in Alaska's data. On fixed incomes averaging $1,500 a month, seniors are being crushed under rents that rise 6 to 8% every year. According to the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies, 50% of renters over 50 spend more than 30% of their income on rent, a setup where one medical emergency can mean eviction. In Alaska's brutal winters, homelessness at that age often becomes a death sentence. Meanwhile, low- and middle-income workers, once considered secure, are now teetering. In March 2025, 108, Anchorage households faced eviction, many earning $50,000 to $80,000 annually, yet unable to afford a modest 2-bedroom at $368 per month. Even those working multiple jobs can't meet the $86,000 yearly threshold needed for basic housing stability. Then come the often overlooked domestic violence survivors, unaccompanied youth veterans, and families with children, each carrying their own scars of trauma, poverty, and systemic failure. When nearly every demographic is at risk, it begs the question in a nation this wealthy, what's holding its safety net together, and how long before it finally tears? Because if the cold streets of Anchorage have taught us anything, it's that homeless in America isn't just a coastal or urban tragedy. It's a national reckoning, and in Alaska, it's written in the ice. Overwhelmed and underfunded, when Alaska's social systems start to crack. Alaska's fight against homelessness rests on a fragile network of social welfare programs. some admirable in design, others collapsing under sheer demand. The state's healthcare system, fueled by roughly $3 billion in Medicaid funding each year, serves as a lifeline for many of the unhoused. Yet in rural areas, clinics remain understaffed, mental health professionals are scarce, and preventive care is almost non-existent. Meanwhile, welfare agencies face chronic staffing shortages, leading to delays in food rental and cash assistance. For families already teetering on the edge, a few weeks of delay can mean the difference between survival and eviction. It's a domino effect. One missed payment, one bureaucratic delay, and another Alaskan falls into homelessness. In March 2025, Anchorage's Emergency Rental Assistance Program revealed how desperate the situation has become. Within just 2.5 days, the city received 1,300 applications, yet limited funding allowed only 10 to 20% of applicants to receive help. Seniors, working families, and disabled residents were left stranded. The complex care shelter operated by Catholic Social Services offers 83 beds for medically fragile and elderly individuals, a haven, but one woefully inadequate for a growing crisis. On the legislative front, Senator Elvie Gray Jackson's Homeless Bill of Rights seeks to protect the unhoused from discrimination and affirm their right to exist in public spaces. Still in its infancy, the bill faces an uncertain political road ahead. A June 2024 Supreme Court ruling permitting cities to ban encampments has also raised alarm. Critics fear it could criminalize poverty itself, pushing unsheltered seniors and disabled residents even further into danger. These measures, though well-intentioned, remain patchwork fixes for a system stretched to its breaking point. The growing crisis of homeless in America can't be solved with temporary relief alone. It demands a resilient safety net strong enough to catch those slipping through the cracks. But that leads to the real question: what's driving so many Alaskans to the edge in the first place? Alaska's fall, the hidden triggers behind a growing crisis. To truly understand Alaska's homelessness emergency, one must move beyond the old stereotypes, laziness, addiction, or personal failure, and confront the systemic and economic forces pulling people into the streets. At the heart of it lies an acute housing shortage. Anchorage alone needs about 10,000 affordable units just to meet current demand. Yet Alaska's remote geography, high construction costs, and harsh winters restrict annual housing development to barely 500 on 1,000 units. As a result, rents have soared, averaging $368 for a two-bedroom apartment, rising 6 to 8% every year, far outpacing wage growth. Today, half of all renters spend over 30% of their income on housing, forcing impossible trade-offs between rent, food, and medical care. Even with a relatively low 4% unemployment rate, in early 2024, thousands of Alaskans juggle multiple low-wage jobs, earning between $50,000 and $60,000 a year, far short of the $86,000 needed to live comfortably in Anchorage. Medical debt devastates savings for 2/3 of the state's homeless population, while 23% struggle with addiction and 41% battle untreated mental illness, worsened by Alaska's underfunded healthcare system. Then there are the deep historical wounds. Alaska Natives, who comprise 44.1% of the state's homeless, are burdened by generational poverty, land loss, and policies that have isolated their communities from economic opportunity. Many migrate to Anchorage seeking jobs or medical care, only to face unaffordable rents and limited support networks. Policy failures have made matters worse. Despite comparable homeless populations, Anchorage receives only $4 million annually from HUD, compared to $40 million for Houston. Years of budget cuts under Governor Mike Dunleavy, targeting legal aid Medicaid and mental health programs, have stripped away crucial safety nets, leaving more people one crisis away from homelessness. Adding to the turmoil, a 2024 Supreme Court decision paired with local ordinances banning campfires and encampments threatens to criminalize the homeless instead of helping them. These measures have ignited fierce debate over whether Alaska's strategy is about public safety or public image. But blaming the homeless for their predicament misses the truth entirely. 90% of people experiencing homelessness in America didn't choose this life, they were forced into it by structural inequities, inadequate policy, and a system that consistently fails those most in need. So, as Alaska stares down another brutal winter, the question remains, will the government keep applying short-term fixes, or finally address the deeper forces driving the homeless in America into the cold? Government response, bold moves, modest results. Alaska's leaders have taken noticeable steps to address the homelessness crisis, but progress remains uneven, and the gap between intent and impact continues to widen. In May 2025, Anchorage Mayor Suzanne LaFrance launched a summer homelessness initiative expanding capacity with hundreds of new shelter beds, including a 200-bed facility run by Catholic Social Services. The plan combines law enforcement with outreach teams, pairing counseling, healthcare, and addiction services, while increasing penalties for illegal campfires to prevent wildfires near encampments. At the same time, the Alaska Department of Transportation issued its April 2025 encampment protocol, detailing how state crews can clear camps on public land. Officials argue it strikes a balance between public safety and human rights, but critics see it as another form of displacement, shuffling people from one area to the next without offering real alternatives. On the federal side, HUD's Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program granted $1.65 million, supplemented by an additional $250,000 annually from the state to assist unhoused youth. $128 million federal investment also bolstered affordable housing for Native communities. Yet the disparities remain. Glaring Anchorage receives just $4 million per year in HUD funding, compared to Houston's $40 million, despite comparable homeless populations. The state pours tens of millions into shelters and outreach, but 80% of those funds are absorbed by temporary fixes, short-term beds, emergency aid, and rapid response cleanup efforts, not the long-term housing or mental health care needed to break the cycle. Programs like Housing First, which helped cut veteran homelessness by 50% between 2011 and 2022, with an impressive 85% housing retention rate, prove that success is possible. But in Alaska, these efforts remain too small in scale to address the magnitude of the crisis. The inefficiencies are glaring. In March 2025, 300 applications for rental assistance flooded Anchorage's offices within 48 hours, but limited funds reached only a fraction of applicants. Poor coordination among state, city, and federal agencies leads to scattered efforts and blurred accountability. The question lingers, where does all the money go? Bureaucratic overhead and endless stopgap measures eat away at budgets, leaving little for the 10,000 affordable homes Alaska desperately needs. If the state truly hopes to change course, it must invest $1 billion over the next decade in affordable housing, expand mental health access for the 23% struggling with addiction, and push to reform HUD's funding formula to secure at least $20–30 million annually. The crisis of homeless in America cannot be solved with piecemeal efforts. It demands structural change, and Alaska now stands at a turning point. Will it seize the moment or let the cold define its future? Where is Alaska's future headed? The future of Alaska's homelessness crisis teeters on a knife's edge. Two stark paths stretch ahead, one of bold reform and one of quiet decline. Without systemic change, experts project a 15–20% increase in homelessness by 2030, pushing Anchorage's numbers to 3,500 to 4,000 people, and doubling annual street deaths to 100 lives lost each year. The 10,000-unit housing shortage paired with rent hikes that outpace wages will hit seniors, low-wage workers, and Native Alaskans the hardest. Federal efforts to criminalize encampments, expected to expand in 2025, could deepen the cycle of arrests and poverty, disproportionately harming vulnerable elders. Yet amid the uncertainty, there is reason for hope. Anchorage's housing first success, where 85% of participants remain stably housed mirrors national victories such as Denver's near eradication of veteran homelessness. If scaled, building 5,000 affordable units within 5 years and expanding mental health outreach could reduce homelessness statewide by 10–15%, saving lives and restoring dignity. A $1 billion investment over a decade combined with stronger federal support is not just necessary, it's achievable. But it will require political will, accountability, and a cultural shift toward compassion over punishment. For individuals, preparation is key, building 3 to 6 months of savings, seeking rental aid early, and electing leaders who prioritize housing are practical first steps. Communities must also unite, supporting the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness, demanding a $20 hour living wage, and pushing for tenant protections that keep working families afloat. The future will depend on whether Alaska views homelessness as a solvable challenge or an inevitable tragedy. The question that now echoes through the last frontier is simple: will we rise to meet this test or let it define us? A call to action: no Alaskan left behind. Alaska's homelessness crisis is more than a policy failure, it's a moral reckoning. From Anchorage's 2,940 homeless residents to the 2,686 recorded statewide and the countless others uncounted in rural regions, this is a story of human struggle in one of the wealthiest nations on Earth. 50 lives lost to freezing streets, 300 families begging for rent relief in days, and shelters packed beyond capacity. This is not someone else's tragedy. It's happening here now to our neighbors, our veterans, our elders, and our working families. The threat of homeless in America looms large over seniors, surviving on $1,500 Social Security checks, workers burning out on double shifts, and Native families still carrying the intergenerational weight of injustice. This is not about individual failure, it's about a system that keeps failing the people it was meant to protect. Now is the time to act. Support organizations like the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness, volunteer at local shelters, and demand equitable HUD funding that matches the scale of the crisis. Share these stories. Start the conversations others avoid, and ask yourself, what kind of Alaska do we want? One where elders freeze in tents, or one where every person has a place to call home? Your voice matters, your vote matters, your compassion matters. Together, we can turn this around and ensure that in the story of homeless in America, No Alaskan is ever left behind.